Hi, this is Bill Mulcahy. I'm here today with Jonathan Cohen, a local merchant who's running for mayor of New Paltz. How you doing, Jonathan?
Hi, very nice to see you, Bill.
And you're here today to urge people to vote for you on May 3rd?
Yes, I am. I'm urging all residents of New Paltz to not just get out there and vote for me, but to actually get out there and listen to all the issues that are being brought about by all the candidates so that they can make an educated decision on whom and what direction they feel the village should be moving in.
What direction is that?
To me, what I'd like to see is much greater transparency in our village government than we've seen in our current administration and even the administrations prior to that. I'd like to see an increased use of volunteers to help run our government and help perpetuate a lot of positive. And I'd like to encourage volunteerism in the village, and I do certainly believe that volunteer is you have to give a certain degree of sacrifice of yourself, and I think it actually has to come as an example from the top of village government, which would be the mayor. And I would propose, as mayor of New Paltz, not accepting any village salary, and using that as an example to others in our community to do the same and contribute their time and effort to help with many different problems that we face in the village today.
Well, there's been a lot of discussion about combining the town and village governments. What do you think about that?
Well, I definitely believe that consolidation, if it would bring about substantial savings, and if I could be assured that village and town residents would be represented properly, I think it might be a very, very good idea. Although it would have to be demonstrated to me, and as well, if it was consolidated, it would have to make sense to both village and town residents to see equal savings on their taxes.
Now, the office of mayor is a 4-year term, right?
Yes, it is. Currently, it's a 4-year term. Although, if I was elected mayor, I would love to bring the 4-year term down to a 2-year term. To me, it would definitely lend to a greater degree of democracy in our village, just as the town supervisor's office is a 2-year position.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But of course, then the new consolidated leader would be a mayor or a supervisor, would you think? Does it make a difference?
It doesn't make a difference to me, as long as all residents of both town and village are properly represented equally.
Speaking about the supervisor rates, there's supervisors up for election this November, right?
I believe so, and I believe everybody should really get involved and listen to the issues. I hope that this election for a supervisor's race will not just be a one-person election. I hope that somebody else will come up and stand up and run for supervisor's position and give some sort of an alternative.
Is Jeff Logan running?
I haven't heard about Jeff Logan. No, not at all. As of this time, I've been speaking to some individuals, but nobody's really come out yet and declared their candidacy.
And there's 3 people running for the mayor of New Paltz now, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Jason West, which I'm sure everybody knows, he was a prior mayor, and Pete Healy, which I don't know if everybody knows, but he is a champion of democracy, and so it should lend to some very, very interesting debates, and I encourage them and I welcome them.
Yeah,
well, they have an isolated opinion
of
things.
And I saw that movie Taking Woodstock, and you mentioned that you supplied some of the costumes for that, or the shirts.
Well, actually, we supplied approximately 500 tapestries to that concert film, and we were very happy to do that, because if you've seen the movie, then you've seen the tapestries that we supplied them, And so we were very, very happy to help in that venue.
How long have you been a businessman in New Paltz?
New Paltz, we've been here approximately 14 years, and I could say that when we first opened our shop, that the downtown village was can I say it, not in disarray. It was a very dark place to be. That there were people there that were hanging out that really turned people off. It was not very welcoming, and so we felt that by opening our business there and having merchandise sold on the street and having a salesperson out there actually looking at keep an eye on these individuals that were hanging out that were really not being a positive to the community, it would help to clean it up and help to actually maybe bring about some sort of a renaissance in the downtown village, which we felt that we were helpful in doing, and which gets me to the point that when I came to New Paltz when I was 14 years old, this was 1970-71. At that time, it was a very magical place to be, and it still is. And my administration would like to pretty much keep New Paltz the oasis, or the...
I was hoping you'd bring back the magic. You mean it's we still have some?
Well, we still have it, but we just have to encourage it to grow. And we need the right policies in New Paltz. For example, a policy of a noise ordinance in New Paltz does not encourage the free expression, the lack of intimidation that I'd like to see in New Paltz, not only in government, but in everyday life. So when you have a small group of individuals...
What does the noise ordinance say in a few words?
Well, basically, it's an additional veil of authority that's given to the police, our police department, to basically, dictate to our villagers how to live and how not to live. If their voices should be too loud or not be too loud. Basically, it infringes on Fourth Amendment rights because it gives the police an additional reason to come into your home and search it. It definitely infringes on First Amendment rights.
If you're making too much noise, the police can enter your house and search it.
I think that it actually doesn't give them that reason, but it can give them an officer that is not operating the way he should, an ability to be abusive. And I personally don't think the police should have that additional veil of authority over our constituents, whether we be seniors, whether it be young people and students, whether we be parents or or fathers or mothers. And so I think that the current noise law is adequate to give the police department enough jurisdiction over noise.
How does the new law differ from the old law?
It would actually, you really have to go onto the Village of New Paltz website and read through it. It's almost 20 pages long.
Is there any one thing that bothers you?
Well, what really bothers me is that the fines start at $200, and that the police can actually come about an hour later and give you another fine for $200 if they find that you're still noisy. And I just think that...
You mean there's not a warning?
I think there might be one warning, and then after which there's a very, very short period of time that you have between warning and actually getting the summons, so where they have that ability to do that. So I think it's very repressive.
Yeah, it's sort of taking the fining ability away from the judge, right?
I would think it does. But also what's troubling to me is that the fine goes to the landlord.
And the police can give out fines?
And the police can give out the fines, and the landlord is going to get the fine. So now the landlord has to go to court, but then the landlord's going to pass that fine over to the student as added rent. So now who's the student going to have to sue the landlord for fining them for that, or can the student go directly to court? And it's just
the landlord would have to take the tenant into court.
That's right. It just makes it very, very difficult. So basically, we're holding responsible the people that are not responsible for the disturbance, and that's troubling for me. As far as many ways the village is looking at many different problems that are occurring in the village, blaming people that are not responsible for issues.
Speaking of
It
problems,
happened,
it bothers me when I see all these empty stores over in that. I know it's not in the village, the ShopRite Plaza.
Right, right. It would be very nice if the town
It
supervisor
affects
would.
the village. I mean, it's
It
right
does.
on Main Street.
It does. It's an eyesore. And, if we could be maybe creative and challenge ourselves, maybe it would be possible for our town supervisor to speak with the owners of these properties. And until they're rented, maybe they could turn them into like an art type of
What a great idea!
like an art, like a co-op. Something that the artists and creative people in the village of New Paltz that really have no place to really, do what they
Yeah.
do, can actually take advantage of space that's not being used. So I think that would be a good. What do you think, Bill?
I agree, and I think New Paltz needs a lot of street art. I mean, we have some areas in New Paltz that have some art or artistic look, but it doesn't seem to be being encouraged either in the town or the village.
No, nobody encourages art in the village. It's
Street art.
street art. I would think it would be a great idea. For example, I remember when I was a young child growing up in Brooklyn, my grandparents used to take me to Greenwich Village. Every spring they had the art show, and the art show would be on the streets
I've seen it, yeah.
in Greenwich Village, and basically they close off a certain amount of streets and allow the artists to actually park their vans in front of the space where they'd be setting up their artwork. And every spring, I think, and every fall, they would have the art show. I can't remember, it was like 40 years ago, but I think it's a wonderful idea that we could have in the village and create something that interweaves village business, village residents, and the art world into one.
Yeah, you really don't see too many street closings in New Paltz.
No,
Or
not
even
at all.
Even except for maybe Main Street on Halloween or something, but that's a very short period of time.
Very short period of time. It seems that if anybody's ever driven cross country, they'll know that there are villages and towns across the United States that basically have street fairs. They close off their main street and they open it up to a nice festival, if not once, twice a year. And it would be nice if the village of New Paltz can actually do something like this to give back, not only to the village, but also to outsiders that want to come in and visit.
Yeah. Speaking of Main Street, how do you feel about the traffic on Main Street? I mean, there's no stop signs on Main Street. I mean, I see people scurrying across the street for safety. It seems like the town has been, village has been taken over by the state highway department. I mean, and it's not pedestrian friendly. And I see them building bicycle racks, but I wouldn't ride a bicycle on Main Street.
It's very, very dangerous. Our streets are narrow, and the problem is also our sidewalks are very, very narrow. I don't think people realize that two people on Main Street, it's very difficult to walk side by side because you have to watch out for the parking meters. I think our streets are 3 feet wide, almost, maybe 3.5 feet wide. The parking meters take up a foot. And basically, it's not pedestrian friendly. I basically would love to see all the parking meters removed, and it would be very nice if we had the proper signage and be able to give the ability to have, let's say, 1 or 2 hours of free parking to people that would like to park on Main Street, and put up nice signs that say that after 1 or 2 hours, whatever we decide upon, that you have to remove your vehicle and rotate your car. And I would think maybe on the weekends, so we could have somebody, an officer, go and maybe chalk the vehicles, and I think that would be adequate.
They had an idea a couple of years ago about changing Main Street one way, at least the downtown area.
Yeah, it probably would look very, very nice. The only problem is, if I lived in the neighborhoods, in the residential neighborhoods that will be affected by major traffic running through there on a consistent level, or consistent basis, I would be pretty upset.
I think that's probably what stopped it, right?
Yeah, so if I put myself in those neighbors' shoes, I would be pretty upset. And I don't think, because of that and some other reasons, I don't think it would be a very good idea, unfortunately. I wish we had some alternatives, although I've heard somebody had an alternative. We build underground.
That was my idea.
Oh, is that your idea? That's a very good idea.
Well, I figure we're on a hill,
Right.
you know, that it could be done without. The only thing I was thinking of
Underground bypass.
if there was water, it would be below the water table. You know, it might be expensive to build, but you know, it would make you could make 3 or 4 streets into total pedestrian malls.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept. You like to think out of the box.
Yeah, I thought if a feasibility study could be done,
Right.
it would be a good idea. I remember when you were running for mayor
Yes.
last time, I brought this issue up, and Jason West said, "What good is a feasibility study if something isn't feasible?" So he already decided that it was not a good idea because he didn't like it.
Well,
But it's just an idea, you know.
well, that's one of the reasons why he lost, because he became a little bit abusive at the end of his at the end of his reign. But I'd like to say something about the parking. We desperately, unfortunately, but fortunately, we desperately need, because our village has great businesses, we need additional parking. We need to build a parking facility, not only for businesses and for towns and people that need to come into the village and use their vehicles and have a place to put their vehicle while they come and take advantage of our business and services and our business climate, but most importantly, that under snow emergencies, the village requires residents to remove their vehicles off the streets, off the village streets. And if they don't, they get towed in the area of, let's say, $230 to $280 if, God forbid, they leave their car. The problem is it's a catch-22 for the residents, because there really is no place for these residents to put their vehicles during that snow emergency. If we had a parking facility 3 or 4 stories that could accommodate enough cars.
That wouldn't be on Main Street; it'd be on a side street.
I would think it would be that space that's behind Village Hall.
Yeah.
We should purchase that space and build that facility, because, as I say, the residents need a place to put their vehicles on snow emergency days, where they could put their vehicles there free of charge if we call a snow emergency, and then the next day, once the streets are plowed, they could return their vehicles back onto the streets. This way, they're not being put into an impossible position, or, as I say, a catch-22, because basically they're in trouble when we have a snow emergency, and for the village to require that they move their vehicles and not have a place for them to put their vehicles, I just think is rather heartless. And I'd like to change that.
You have 2 running mates
I do.
on the groovy Blueberry ticket, and that's your wife,
Amy?
Amy, and Emily Crocetti.
Yes. First of all, Amy is my wife. She's brilliant. She knows how to organize. She knows how to manage, and I think that she would be an extremely effective trustee. And most importantly, you can trust her. And I would think that would be one of the most important attributes that a trustee could have. And as far as Emily Crocetti, she's a young woman. She's a graduate of SUNY New Paltz. She's approximately 25 years old, 22 years old. And she's bright, she's sharp, she understands problems of young people and renters and people that have all issues in her that in her age bracket. So I think that she'd make a huge contribution to the village, and she as well is an extremely trustworthy individual.
Okay, well, thank you, John. Leave the camera rolling. So the election is on May 3rd.
Yep.
Make sure you get out and vote, and vote. I hope people will vote for change, because I think we need some change.
And one more thing, I just wanted to invite anybody and everybody to our celebration of spring party, and it's also going to be a party to elect Jon Cohen for mayor, and it'll be held on May 1st on the corner of Water and Main Streets, right across the street from the Gilded Otter and the Groovy Blueberry and Water Street Market, on the parking lot there. And there'll be bouncy houses for the children to play, free food, and wonderful, wonderful, incredible music. So I invite anybody and everybody to come and enjoy the festivities. And just believe me, bring your own Frisbee. It'll be welcome.
Okay, thank you, John.